Alright, hey guys, and welcome back to Within the Good Books. This is going to be my first book review, so let's see how it goes here. So again, the book that I read was Of Mice and Men. Strongly recommend it if you haven't read it. And if you haven't read it, I would also ask you to stop watching this video pretty much. My analysis and my opinion on the book, regardless if you think so or not, are somewhat going to alter your experience of the book. So I would, and I'm going to talk about the events as well, so I guess I would spoil the ending or other parts of the book. So if you haven't read the book, don't watch this video anymore and pick it up because it's small, so you can probably finish it with a day and then come back and enjoy it. Alright, so again, I assume you've read the book. So the book is Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. And now I'm going to basically kind of give my opinion on the book and parts that I like, parts that I don't like. And I mean, this is a new process. If there's anything else you'd like me to talk about or touch upon, I'd love to hear it. Basically, I'm just going to talk about what my favorite part is to start. And my favorite part of the book is whenever Lenny and George, they talk about their farm. The reason for that is I think it just kind of gained me a little perspective as to how much you really need to be happy, and what I always what sometimes governs my happiness is truly not important in the grand scheme of things. It also symbolizes for me kind of how it's important to always have a goal in life and something to look forward to, and I think that is a big precursor to happiness. My least favorite part of the book is actually how Curly's wife is kind of portrayed in the novel, and the reason for that is because I don't think it's actually said anywhere in the novel that she's done anything or slept around or anything like that, but she's kind of viewed as this promiscuous, kind of troublesome, and that's one of the themes of the book as well, actually, or the motives of the book is the corruption by a woman. And I just think it's a bit ridiculous how just because she's a female and she likes talking to people take it as if she's trying to cause trouble or whatever. And I mean, the way John Steinbeck writes about her kind of helps embellish that thought. I mean, if anything, you should really pity her as she's married to a man she doesn't love, and she's all alone in this place that isn't her own. Ultimately, it leads to her death because she's in a world she doesn't belong in. My favorite character is George. The reason for this is I really like how George would borderline be better off without Lenny, though he puts his selfishness aside and decides to kind of travel with him and be with him because of the quality of their companionship, and I think that's one of my favorite parts of this book. My least favorite character is Curly, and the reason for that is that he's in a position of power and he abuses it. I like to believe that everyone who's in a position of power is honest and just, and I know that's not the case, but I think the world in general is moving towards that direction. Also, I'm not a big fan of his small man syndrome, and he's trying to always show up the bigger guys and stuff like that. His confidence is a bit annoying to me, or his lack of confidence rather. Now I'm going to tell you some of my favorite quotes, or read you some of them rather. The first one is when Slim is talking to George, and he's talking about how him and Lenny travel together, and it goes, sorry, I don't speak like these guys, so if I say these words a little funky, don't make fun of me too much. Ain't many guys travel around together, he mused. I don't know why. Maybe everyone in the whole damn world is scared of each other. I think that pertains pretty well to this generation as well. The technology generation stuff is very isolating as opposed to having real relationships and kind of all these pseudo friendships and stuff like that. And so I thought that was a good line, because it sometimes it does feel like everyone's scared of each other. So my next favorite quote is actually by Candy, and I'm not going to give an explanation as to why it's my favorite right now, and we'll talk about it a bit later. So it's when he's talking to George, and he kind of comes up to him a bit awkwardly towards the end of the scene, and he says this: "I ought to have shot that dog myself, George. I should not to let no stranger shoot my dog." And I'll talk about that in a second, why that one's my favorite. So now I've always been a really big fan of symbolism in literature. So I mean, this book isn't ridiculously heavy on symbolism like Lord of the Flies or something like that, but there are some symbols that I would like to note. So George and Lenny's farm is obviously as symbolic to, you know, the American dream for them. And I find it a bit ironic when, you know, they talk about the American dream in books like The Great Gatsby, and it's these massive mansions and these outrageous parties and ultimate wealth, whereas these guys basically just want, you know, $600. I know, I realized in that time, to have a farm and to be free, and to them that's their American dream. Another one that I find quite apparent, I might be wrong here, is Lenny and George and how they contrast each other as to two very different types of men. So Lenny is more of the impulsive and animalistic, I would say to an extent, man, whereas George is more of the intelligent and mindly type of man. And you know, you definitely do see a lot of people kind of bend themselves into one of those categories. It's a very nice contrast of character, even though I don't know how symbolic that is, but there's definitely some meaning behind that. So my last one is Candy's dog, and there is some talk about how Candy's dog represents how Candy will feel that soon, when he is, you know, not of use anymore, they'll can him. And I do think there's some valid points to that, and I agree. I also believe that Candy's dog has somewhat of a greater meaning, and that has to do with, I believe that he symbolizes Lenny within George and Lenny's relationship. And I think that they give clues throughout the book. When Lenny is actually referred to in the book and described, a lot of time it uses animal kind of characteristics, or like a terrier, so as similar to a dog. And so I think that's John kind of hinting at the link between Candy's dog and Lenny. And also that quote I just said about how Candy said he should have never let anyone else shoot his dog. I think that's kind of the clue that John leaves for us to show that, you know, that's why George shot Lenny at the end of the book, and it was because Candy told him that nobody else should have shot his dog. And that's my belief, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that one. So overall, I very much enjoyed the book. As I said, I read it during exam period, and I kind of put it down, and last minute I read it within a day. So I would suggest, you know, if you have a Saturday or Sunday or something that you want to do something, I really suggest this book. I mean, it's so relatable. It's so it's very accessible, and it's a great start to if you want to read classics or John Steinbeck. He's obviously very talented, and it was just a fantastic read. Anyways, thanks for having me, and leave some comments, and hopefully we can have some discussion. Oh yeah, almost forgot to say I can cross that one off the list there. So.